This is the Nissan Leaf, and not just any Nissan Leaf, this one is the E+ long-range version which launched earlier in 2021 in Australia. And I've been living with this exact car for several months to find out what it's like to live with an electric car in Australia and whether this particular one has enough range to go on a bit of a longer journey too. You'll be able to read what I found out along the way over at my long-term review over on carsguide.com.au. In the EV site section, we've also got lots of advice and news in there that should hopefully answer all of your EV questions as well. And if you are watching on YouTube and you are enjoying our videos, remember to hit those like, subscribe and bell notification icons just to stay up to date with all of our latest content. And before we get going, we're just going to throw some time codes up on the screen now. Those are our 8 review subheads. You can skip ahead to the part that interests you. Let's get into it. This is the more expensive of the two Nissan Leaf variants, the long-range E+. It has what I would consider to be decent range for an EV in our market, but it's also not cheap, wearing a price tag of $64.90. To prove how rapidly the EV market is changing, during my time with the Leaf, it went from being not so bad value in the EV space to one of the cars which represents the least value of its peers. I really want to give the Leaf more credit here. It's worth remembering that this little car was globally instrumental in the rollout of electric vehicles before it was overtaken by the Tesla Model 3. But it's bizarre to think of an EV which is on sale now as some kind of historical artifact. Regardless, it's really hard to justify the asking price, which is now higher than entry-level versions of the Tesla Model 3 and Polestar 2, both of which not only feel more modern, but offer more range too. When I picked up the car, this wasn't the case, but the Leaf looks set to be outpaced by not just the Model 3 and Polestar 2, but if you're really looking at this entry-level part of the EV space, there are more affordable options from MG and Hyundai as well. To make things worse, while the Leaf comes in a single highly specified trim level, it still seems a bit off the pace. Standard equipment includes a remarkably normal-looking 8-inch multimedia touchscreen with wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support, a 7-inch digital dash cluster, single-zone climate control, synthetic leather and suede seats with a synthetic leather steering wheel, heated seats, LED headlights, 17-inch alloy wheels, and a decent but not stellar set of safety inclusions which we'll look at later. While the E+ sweetens the deal over the circa 50 grand base car with an improved range and motor outputs, as well as faster DC charging, it still misses out on the always online features, advanced software, and more sleek modern appeal of more recent and more affordable rivals in this space. No wonder then I frequently found myself surrounded by Teslas at shopping centre charging bays. Now, in the grand scheme of electric cars, the Nissan Leaf looks kind of normal, ordinary, almost like it could just be another combustion hatchback. And that's not really necessarily a criticism. I think there's going to be people out there who don't want to yell about the fact that they're driving an electric car, who want something that's a bit more understated and a little bit less like people are just going to stare at you on the road. So let's take a closer look. The Leaf barely draws eyes on the road, and it was only when I had it plugged in charging that people even thought to take a second look at it, such as the curiosity around electric models at the moment. There is a bit of a sense of presence to it though. While it might not have the sleek allure of the Model 3 nor the chiseled Scandinavian looks of the Polestar 2, the Leaf is wide and tall and even a little chunky around its edges for a hatch. Chrome garnish around its snout and L-shaped light fittings which clasp its rear bring it in line with Nissan's vague design ethos. If you think the outside is looking plain, wait till you get in the cabin, with the Leaf feeling like any old combustion car on the inside. Things are surprisingly low-tech, with manual seat adjustment, a standard screen it shares with other combustion cars, an abundance of familiar switchgear, and even an analog dial paired with the digital screen in the dash cluster. Now, with all that familiarity of the cabin, it also kind of lacks the tech of other electric cars. It seems like a lost opportunity that this area down here doesn't have a wireless charging bay. It is just wired Apple CarPlay connectivity. It has worked flawlessly for me in my time with the car, but it just doesn't feel very techy. It feels very kind of last generation compared to a lot of the other electric cars that are launching now. So in the cabin of the Nissan Leaf, and one thing to note is there's nothing in here that yells about the fact that it's an electric car, apart from the little puck shifter here. It's all pretty ordinary. If someone told me this was just a combustion car, then I would totally believe them. If this was, say, the current version of the Nissan Pulsar, that would be very believable. Now, Few things to note about the interior here. Firstly, it is quite plush for a hatch. There's all these plush finishes on the dash and the doors and the armrest, and it's a Nissan strong point to have really nice seats, and the seats in here are quite good. They're weirdly high though. If you hop in and out of other cars compared to this car, you'll notice that it has an almost SUV-like seating position, but it's not too hard to get into because it does have that very tall roof as well, and visibility is still quite good regardless. Now, on the storage front, this car doesn't lean into its electric underpinnings very well. There's still very closed-in claddings all around here, but storage-wise, it's okay. You've got a large bottle holder in the doors here, two more large ones in the center, and a large center console box, but there's no pass-through under the center console here either, which is a bit of a shame to see, and I do feel like I'm a bit closed in here, even with that tall roof line. Hopping in the back seat, and the Nissan Leaf has some surprises. These seats are super comfy, but I'm even higher off the ground than I am in the front seats, making it really an SUV kind of ride height for rear passengers in here. Again, love the seats. Surprised to find I have enough knee room behind my own driving position, and still there's quite a bit of headroom in here, even despite that seat base height. Now, one thing that is a bit of a shame is there's no flat floor like a lot of EVs have. There is a transmission tunnel looking thing here, which does eat up a bit of your leg room. And if you have a center passenger here, it's not really kind of adult sized. And you do have one small bottle holder in here, but no drop down armrest either, and no power outlets and no directional air vents, just a set of pockets on the backs of the front seats. One thing you do get that's rare for a rear passenger in a car in this category is a entirely heated rear bench. And the reason that Nissan put heated seats everywhere in this car is because it's more efficient to heat occupants using heated seats than it is to use the air conditioning. So that's worth keeping in mind as well. The boot comes in at 405 litres, which doesn't sound too bad for a hatch in this class. It's tall and wide enough, but a bit limited in its depth to the backs of the seats. Regardless, it manages to fit our full CarsGuide luggage set with little to no room to spare. One small annoyance is the presence of a Bose soundbox on the floor. It takes up a bit of room and will make you cringe to scratch its hard plastic surface when you load objects. A carpet cover would have at least been nice. The Leaf also doesn't have a frunk, with the engine bay taken up in an almost traditional fashion by motor components. On the topic of motor components, the Leaf E Plus drives the front wheels via an electric motor, which has received an upgrade from the standard Leaf model. The power is respectable, you see those figures on your screen now. While it's eclipsed by many other EVs, the Leaf E Plus is still a surprisingly quick little hatch, especially given the silence of it. We'll look at this more closely in the driving part of this review. To back these motor components, the E Plus has a decently sized 62 kilowatt-hour battery pack, giving it a range of approximately 385 kilometers. This will largely depend on how you drive it though, as my first few months with this little hatch were revealing. Its official consumption sits at 18 kilowatt hours to 100 kilometers, but around town I saw it get down to 16.3 kilowatt hours, making the most of that regen braking. Meanwhile, on the freeway, the range dropped dramatically, and I was seeing consumption figures more like the mid-20s. Now we need to talk about the charging ports in the Nissan Leaf, because unlike a lot of electric cars which have one combo port, the Nissan Leaf has two standards in here. You've got the European Type 2 standard for your slower AC charging. That's from a wall socket or charging up maybe a local supermarket that has an AC standard port. And then for DC, your fast charging, you have a Japanese standard CHAdeMO port. Those are a little bit rarer to find, but this one in the Leaf can also dispense charge, and not every electric car can do that. The E Plus can be charged at a rate of 100 kilowatts on the CHAdeMO DC connector, allowing for a charge time of 10 to 80% in 45 minutes, not the fastest on the market. A charge on the Type 2 AC connector at the maximum 6.6 kilowatts will see a charge time of around 9 hours. Again, could be faster here. We didn't have a chance to try the dual-way charging for the CHAdeMO port in our time with the car, but perhaps we can bring this to you in a future test. Driving the Nissan Leaf is as friendly as it looks from the outside. It's just an easy experience. There are a few weird things. That high seating position combines with a not very adjustable steering column to make for a bit of an odd seating position. It just means that the wheel is almost down in your lap while your waist is quite high, and that's a little odd, but visibility is good regardless. If you've never driven an electric car before, it's a very good story for the Leaf because it drives like every other electric car. You've got quite a bit of go in this E+ version with its extra power output compared to the normal Leaf, and that just means it's got plenty of power for overtaking on the freeway. It's got enough power to overwhelm the front wheels if you really want, and it's very smooth, very measured when it comes to its acceleration as well. It doesn't have this wild approach that Tesla has or some other electric cars have. It's just measured and friendly and smooth. Now, in terms of the pedal feel, Nissan's got one single tune of regen braking. It's a single pedal mode. You obviously accelerate to go, and then as you let off, it will smoothly start to regen back. And it is quite an aggressive tune. It will regen quite a lot the moment you start letting off the accelerator, and that will maximize your range. So I'd recommend leaving it on. You can completely turn it off and it will drive like a normal car, but that will hamper your range, so keep that in mind. The Nissan Leaf has one steering tune, there's no way to change it, and it's a really easygoing steering tune. I really like it. It's just easy to turn this car and park it, and it's great at even low speeds. But that having been said, it's not overly electrically assisted either. I feel like I can really feel where the front wheels are and what they're doing at any given time, and that gives this car a nice balanced steering tune as well. What else I like, the ride is really soft. It's definitely not performance tuned. I wouldn't be throwing this car into corners too often, but that having been said, it's not nice and controlled and capable, and bumps or corrugations don't really upset it much. You combine those factors together, the nice soft suspension, the nice light steering, and just enough power to overtake on the freeway if need be, and it adds together for a really easygoing package, one that I think a lot of people are just going to be happy to hop into if they're hopping straight out of a combustion car. There's nothing here that's so unusual, so overly electric that it's going to set people off. And I've really appreciated that about the Leaf over the last couple of months that I've had it. It's just been a really comfortable companion. You just get in it and go down to the shops and be guaranteed that it's going to be a comfortable, easy experience. But what's it like on the open road? Well, I took it for a trip recently from Sydney to Foster, some 350, 400 Ks thereabouts, and I've got to say, it is much less efficient on the open road as it is around town. Now, obviously that's because you've got much less regen braking going on, so you're never recouping energy, you're always just losing it. But it alarmed me how much the consumption spiked on the freeway. It was to the point where it's gone from sort of 16 kilowatt hours to 100 kilometers all the way up to the mid-20s, and hills really kill it. The consumption graph was like the land we were traversing itself. You could see the hills as the electric motor struggled to pull this car's weight up, and then the regen on the way back down. It did get quite concerning on that trip. On our return journey, the amount of distance remaining was starting to close in on the range left that the car was showing. It started at about 100 kilometers difference, and it shortened to 40 by the time we got back to Sydney, and that was quite concerning. If you were to extend that over a longer period of time, you could run out of charge quite easily. So if you are doing those longer trips more often, the Leaf might not quite be for you. Although I will say the 385 or so Ks on offer from this battery was fine for me around town. There was never a point where I was annoyed that I had to charge this car up. I always got at least a week before having to plug it in anywhere, and it sort of does suit that lifestyle quite well. So who does this car suit? Ultimately, someone who's not willing to take a big step into the unusualness of something like a Tesla, but they do want all of the electric features that are on offer. You do get the two-way charging in this car, you do get a really aggressive regen braking tune. It's not terribly inefficient, and it also really does have enough range for those single trips that you might do every now and again. Safety-wise, the Leaf E Plus packs some advanced safety items like auto emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keep assist with lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition, and driver attention alert. My time on the freeway left me hardly impressed with the adaptive cruise and lane keep systems, which don't really work together to give you the kind of autonomous driving experience you might expect in a Tesla, for example. The Leaf is covered by Nissan's 5-year and unlimited kilometre warranty and also 5 years of roadside assist. The battery has a separate industry-standard 8-year 160,000 kilometre warranty, and Nissan reckons you should have at least 3/4 of your battery capacity left at that time. For some reason, servicing is required every year or 20,000 kilometres, and a cap price servicing program for the first 5 visits comes in at an average of $290 a year. I don't know why this plan costs more than a hybrid Toyota and has to see the shop just as often, given there are far less moving parts in the EV drivetrain. More recent entrants to this EV space are even offering entirely free servicing during the warranty period. Worth noting. So there you have it, the Nissan Leaf E+. I've actually been quite charmed by it in my time with the car. I found that it has enough range for my lifestyle, it's quite easy to get in and live with, and there's nothing really outlandish about it. I think the fact that it's a hatchback, which just so happens to be electric, is one of its best attributes. I think there's going to be a lot of buyers who aren't really willing to take that next big leap into electrification who will be quite happy with what the Leaf offers. I think this car's biggest challenge is its price. I think the fact that there are now more recent arrivals that come at a lower price and offer more range and more features is going to be a real challenge for this car going forward. What do you think? Would you have the Leaf or a Tesla Model 3 or a Polestar 2 or a Hyundai Kona electric? Tell us what you think. Remember, you'll be able to read my full long-term chronicle with this car over on carsguide.com.au in that EV site section. And if you have watched this video on YouTube and you have enjoyed it, please hit that like, subscribe and bell notification icon. That'll help you stay up to date with all of our latest content.